along to this video, which we are calling How to Locate a Profitable Property Deal. And this is a frequently asked question on Property Tribes. And to discuss this, I'm joined by Henri Saint-Cassier, who is the co-founder of the deal identifying software One and Only Pro. And Henri, as I said, frequently asked questions. Where do you find below market deals? Where do you find high yielding? Where do you find capital growth? And I think we agree that actually what makes a good deal starts with the individual that's looking for it and what their personal circumstances are and what their aims are through property investment.
Absolutely. It's about risk appetite, location, where's the buyer located, where's the potential property located, is the buyer looking for yield, capital appreciation, what type of property is better suited to them. Some people prefer modern properties that are lower maintenance, other people are looking for a historic property that's maybe got a bit more artistic or aesthetic merit. It's half the decision about what makes a good property deal is very personal things. Some are practical, some are psychological, and some are financial to do with personal circumstances. I think for professional or semi-professional landlords, the majority of those are going to be financial. How much income does the property generate? How stable is that income? What's the potential for a price gain? Is the property mortgageable? Is it a cash buy? All these factors have to be weighed in, but you're absolutely right. It starts with the person rather than a specific property.
And I think I'm also feel really strongly that when you're looking at a prospective property investment, you actually first have to understand what the tenant demand is, because you could go and buy one of these mythical properties with a 30% discount, but actually if nobody wants to rent that property, it's not actually a deal at all. It's a millstone around your neck. So again, part of the initial research is actually tenant demand, isn't it?
Yes, it's something that we do as a matter of course. We do it daily. We cross-check the rents on 100, 110,000 properties by actually seeing what's available in that specific area for that specific property. There's a lot of misinformation about rents. There's a lot of optimistic rents on the one hand. On the other hand, you've got surveyors and other professionals that tend to underreport rents for various reasons, and this just leads to confusion. So it's crucial when you're analysing a potential deal to check the rent is accurate, it's available, and also that it can't be raised. I think a lot of landlords and investors underestimate rents by not looking at what is achievable now. They might look at what tenants are paying, but that tenant may have been paying that rent for 2 or 3 years. The market's moved on. A really savvy investor and a savvy landlord, as part of analysing a deal, will look at what is potentially available in the very near future. If you can find that value, if you can confirm that it's reasonable and that people will pay it, and if there is demand for it, then you've got a sound basis for analysing a deal.
We do hear a lot about buying below market value, and of course we fully accept that money in a property investment is made at the beginning if you can lock in equity. But sometimes I do feel that there are deals out there where you could pay market value and still end up with a very, very profitable property investment. And do you think people get too obsessed with kind of BMV?
Yes, there is. I think there are two obsessions with BMV. A lot of people are obsessed with it but can't find it, and a lot of other people are obsessed with the fact that it doesn't exist. And between these two myths, you've got quite a confused buying marketplace.
Or you have to pay a property guru like a large sum of money to find one for them.
And they won't eventually find you anything. But the BMV deals do exist. We pull them out on a daily basis. They shouldn't be the be-all and end-all, because there are also deals at the market rate at 100% of the asking price, where yields are still very high. So I think for buyers, landlords, investors, they should accept that BMV deals do exist, and they exist for good reasons. You've got sellers that are under pressure, you've got mistakes, you've got underappreciated areas, you've got vendors that don't see wider trends in the market and undervalue their own properties. You've got surveyors who have very good ethical and professional reasons that constrain them. They can't look at, a huge number of comparables. They can't look at factors that we're able to look at. They're constrained by banks, they're constrained by their own professional rules, and all this adds up to confusion. And I think if people accept BMV deals exist, but it's also possible to get great value at the asking price, it will open up more potential deals for buyers, because they are out there, and the smart landlords and investors are making money from them. It's not a myth. It's happening on a daily basis.
Indeed. And I think, the other thing that I do is I always put myself in the shoes of a potential tenant and think about what they would want. And there are obvious things like close proximity to transport links, good local amenities, supermarkets, parking. If it's a family market that you want to rent to, then you obviously need to look at the school catchment areas, the Ofsted rating of the school, and all this kind of thing. So it seems to me that when you're looking for a deal, you're going to keep on digging down and down and down into more granular stuff. But that is the due diligence process, and that is what mitigates risk and makes sure you end up with a really profitable investment.
Absolutely. The data crunching part is difficult, that's why we exist, so the numbers is tedious, but all the points you've highlighted are just common sense. If your property is in a poor location, it's got bad transport links, there's no schools nearby, and if your tenant is a family, you're unlikely to have rental demand. And it's this kind of common sense due diligence that less savvy or smart landlords miss, and they're the ones that get saddled with properties. They can't rent, they can't sell, they can't refinance, and they just get stuck for years and years. The smart landlords screen out unsuitable investments with very simple, sensible, common sense due diligence, and put themselves in the customer's shoes, see the property through a buyer or a renter's eyes, and that simple exercise gives them all the insight that they need.
Indeed. And a lot of certainly newcomers and also some more experienced landlords are, they're being encouraged to go up north. We know there are higher yields up north, we accept that, but with high yields, on occasion can come higher risk. And again, this goes back to the individual who's buying the property. If you're an experienced landlord and you see a very high yielding property up north that maybe is in not such a great area and maybe renting to tenant in receipt of housing benefit, then you can indeed make that work. But that might not be the right thing for a newcomer landlord. So again, the person's got to look at it from their perspective and their ability to manage that property.
Yes, it's about practicality, personal circumstances, time, effort, and there are differences even within professional landlords. Some want hassle-free properties, others are looking to make more effort in the hope of making bigger gains, and it does come down to your personal circumstances. And obviously, the higher the potential return, as with everything, the higher the potential risk. So the high yielding properties do need a bit more due diligence, and they just need thought. Have I got 3 hours to go to Manchester to change a light bulb? What am I going to do if I've got a local authority tenant and there's a legal problem? Have I got insurance against that? What are my options? It's about resources, time, effort, money, and factoring everything in and just seeing or trying to imagine what the practical reality will be like, A, of owning the property, and B, looking at a few obvious things that can go wrong. What are you going to do if there's an eviction? What are you going to do if there's a non-payment or a void period? Have you got enough estate agents and enough choice for management and renting the property or advertising it? I think the circumstances where property can go bad are pretty known by now. It's been happening for millennia. So it's the same problems and they're pretty easy to visualise. And then it's just a case of making a few checks. Have you checked that you've got the correct reaction if any of these things go bad? And is it practical? And is it, at the end of the day, worthwhile? If you're making £30 a month on a property, you're not going to want to make much effort. If it's a £10,000 a month rental, your time input's going to be proportionately higher. So it's just balancing all these factors, but none of it really is rocket science.
I know, and I think certainly for newcomer landlords, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it makes sense to start out low risk. And, you know, I hear so many newbie landlords saying, oh, I'm going to go and start in HMOs. And I do feel concerned for them because, you know, my advice is always to build a solid cash flowing property of bread and butter, you know, terraces that will rent out all day long, get that experience of tenant management and property management, and then maybe expand and adjust your risk accordingly after that. But I think certainly starting out, people need to go for something that's solid and low risk.
Yes, keep it simple, stupid, the KISS principle. These basic solid deals are out there. I mean, we have thousands of them every month. It's possible to get a great yield, a good price, and as a beginner, start your journey with minimal variables and minimal risks so that you can get the basics right. As you build up your portfolio, you get more and more of a cushion in terms of cash flow, in terms of equity, and just general experience. The stuff that an experienced landlord will do is designed to cut risks with very little thought. They will automatically do certain things in terms of sourcing the deal and in terms of managing the property that take risks out where a beginner may fall into an obvious kind of schoolboy error. But starting solid is definitely the way to go. And even if you start solid, you can still get these 10, 15, 20% returns that experienced investors would love. They're available to beginners even now.
Indeed. Well, they do say it's location, 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 but I think you'll gather from what Henri and I have been discussing, it's actually due diligence, due diligence, due diligence. And we do hope you've enjoyed this wide-ranging discussion about what makes for a good property deal, but actually we'd like to hear what you think makes for a good property deal, the sort of metrics that you look at, the sort of locations that you favour. We'd be very interested to hear what you think, so please join the discussion. Thank you, Henri.
Thank you very much, Vanessa.